A judge's voice cut through the courtroom with sharp authority. "Remove that necklace," he commanded. "This courtroom demands strict decorum. No unauthorized decorations are allowed." Ella Anderson sat perfectly still in the third row of the public gallery. Her posture was straight, her hands folded quietly in her lap. Her attention was focused on the young sailor standing before the bench, a kid named Peterson who couldn't pay his speeding ticket. Ella was there to support him. The judge's words seemed aimed directly at her, yet they felt like they came from another reality altogether. Against her simple red blouse hung something remarkable. It wasn't a necklace at all. A light blue ribbon covered with 13 white stars held a golden five-pointed star with an anchor at its center, encircled by a laurel wreath. It was the Medal of Honor. Judge Harrington, whose portrait hung in the lobby and whose arrogance filled the room, stared down from his elevated wooden bench. Behind his glasses, his expression showed pure irritation, as if swatting away an annoying fly. "Did you hear me?" he demanded, tapping his gavel like a woodpecker striking wood. The bailiff, a large man with kind, tired eyes, shifted his weight. He looked from the judge's angry face to the calm woman in the gallery, took a half-step forward, and stopped. Something about her peaceful stillness and complete lack of fear made him pause. He could now see the intricate details on the medal, the way it caught the flat, fluorescent light. It felt important. Weighty. "Your Honor," Ella said clearly, her steady voice reaching every corner of the silent room. "It is authorized." Her simple statement seemed to make the judge even angrier. It was a challenge not just to his rules, but to his knowledge. "Authorized by whom?" he shot back. "I am the authority in this courtroom, and I say it is not permitted. This is not a parade. It is a place of law. Remove it now, or I will have you taken away and charged with contempt." The threat hung heavy in the air. The room grew cold. The young sailor Peterson glanced back at her, his face full of worry. He knew who she was and what she had done for him and so many others at the local Veterans Center. He opened his mouth to speak, but Ella gave him a slight shake of her head. This was not his battle to fight. The judge continued his angry speech, his voice getting louder. "The honor of this court comes first. We cannot have citizens showing up dressed like they're at a celebration, wearing whatever trinkets they want. It damages the entire process." Trinket. The word landed like a punch. The bailiff began walking toward her with slow, reluctant steps. He was a professional who followed orders, but everything inside him screamed that this was wrong. He could see other people in the gallery staring, family members waiting for their cases, a few lawyers sitting nearby. The air felt thick with attention, different from a normal courtroom day. This wasn't the tension of a verdict. This was the tension of something sacred about to be damaged. Ella's calm never wavered. She didn't prepare to argue or fight back. Her focus turned inward, her breathing slow and controlled, a discipline learned in places far more difficult than this air-conditioned room. She had faced down men holding rifles and rocket launchers, men whose eyes held burning, murderous hatred. The judge's petty power grab was nothing compared to that. It was simply disappointing. It was a failure of the system she had devoted her life to protecting. "Bailiff," the judge commanded sharply, his voice like a whip cracking. "Remove that forbidden object and take this woman out of my courtroom. Her presence is a disruption. Forbidden object." The word was ridiculous. Ella's eyes moved to the American flag standing tall next to the judge's bench. She remembered saluting that flag on dusty military bases, on gray steel ship decks, and in quiet memorial ceremonies. The judge saw only fabric. She saw a promise. He saw a piece of metal on a ribbon. She felt the weight of all the lives it represented. The bailiff now stood in her row. "Ma'am," he said quietly, almost apologetically, "please don't make this hard." Ella finally looked away from the flag and met his gaze. She saw the conflict in his eyes, the shame. She gave him a small, sad smile. "You're just doing your job, I understand." She didn't stand or try to remove the medal. She would not help them dishonor it. If they wanted to take it, they would have to do it themselves and own what they were doing. Seeing her quiet resistance as the ultimate act of defiance, the judge slammed his gavel down. The sound exploded through the silent room like a cannon shot. "I find you in contempt of court. You are under arrest." As the bailiff reached for her arm, the judge leaned forward, his face red with anger and satisfaction. "That showy necklace of yours will be held as proof of your contempt." Showy necklace. Those words struck like a match on dry wood. For just a moment, everything around Ella disappeared. The stale, recycled air became thick with the smell of blood and gunpowder. The judge's voice transformed into the high-pitched sound of incoming mortar fire. The blue ribbon against her neck stopped feeling like silk and became the rough canvas of a medical pack strap cutting into her skin as she crawled through broken concrete and sand. She could feel a phantom weight on her back, not a backpack, but a body. A young Marine, a lance corporal from Ohio, who had been laughing just an hour before. She remembered desperately trying to stop his bleeding, the helicopter's rotor wash creating a blinding cloud of dust. She heard the urgent calls of names and casualty reports over the radio. The medal wasn't a memory of winning. It was a scar. It was proof of the cost of a single afternoon in the Helmand River Valley. A reminder of 4 men who came home under a flag because of her actions, and 2 who didn't. Off to the side at his small desk, the court clerk David felt a cold sweat form on his forehead. His fingers froze on the keyboard. He was 24 years old, a former Marine who had served 4 years as a radio operator. He'd spent his time at a quiet embassy, never in real combat, but his training had taught him to recognize important things. He knew ranks and military decorations. He understood the difference between unit awards and personal honors, and he knew with a certainty that chilled him what that pale blue ribbon meant. He had read about it in books. Drill instructors had drilled the citations into his memory until he could never forget them. He'd seen pictures of presidents placing that simple, sacred object around the necks of heroes, and now he was watching an arrogant, ignorant judge order a bailiff to rip it from this woman's neck. His heart pounded against his ribs. This was wrong. This violated something sacred and important. The judge's order to lock her up was the breaking point. David's training, his deep respect for authority and the chain of command was screaming at him. There was a higher authority than Judge Harrington, and it was being treated with disrespect. While the bailiff hesitated with his hand hovering over Ella's shoulder, David's hands moved under his desk with desperate speed. He pulled out his personal phone. His thumb flew across the screen, his mind racing through his contacts. Who do you call when the system is breaking down? He didn't have a number for the Pentagon, but he had the contact for his old company's master gunnery sergeant, now stationed as the senior enlisted officer at the nearby naval base Coronado. It was a long shot and broke every rule he could think of, but he didn't care. He pressed call and lifted the phone to his ear, covering his mouth and turning away from the bench. "Master Guns, it's David Cho," he whispered, his voice tight with nervous energy. "I'm sorry to call you like this, but you won't believe what's happening right now." The phone was quiet for a moment. "Cho, what's going on? You sound scared." "I'm at the county courthouse," David said. "There's a female veteran here and the judge is charging her with contempt." "For what?" David took a shaky breath. "She's wearing the Medal of Honor. Judge Harrington keeps calling it a necklace. He just told the bailiff to confiscate it." The silence that followed was filled with shock and anger. When Master Gunnery Sergeant Reyes finally spoke, all his casual friendliness was gone. His voice became hard as steel. "Give me the address and the courtroom number, right now." David quickly gave him the information. "Keep your head down, Cho, we're coming." The line went silent. David slipped his phone back into his pocket, his heart still racing. He looked up at Ella Anderson. He had just set something huge in motion. He could only hope help would arrive in time. The call from Master Gunnery Sergeant Reyes spread through Naval Base Coronado like wildfire. A Master Gunnery Sergeant with 28 years of service doesn't make urgent calls without serious reason. He skipped the normal chain of command and went straight from his office to the base commander's chief of staff, a Navy captain in the middle of an important briefing. Reyes interrupted, breaking protocol so severely that the whole meeting stopped. "Captain, we have a serious problem," Reyes said, his voice a low growl. "A Medal of Honor recipient is being held in contempt by a civilian judge downtown. He's trying to take her medal away." The captain's face went pale. He held up a hand to stop the presentation. "Excuse me." He followed Reyes into the hallway. "Are you absolutely certain?" Reyes replied, "The clerk on the scene is one of my former Marines. He's certain." The military machine began to move with incredible speed. The captain made a call straight up the chain of command, directly to the office of the commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. The 4-star Admiral's aide, a sharp young lieutenant commander, answered the call. Her eyes grew wide as she listened. She scribbled a quick note, tore it off, and without saying anything, walked into the Admiral's private conference room where he was meeting with visiting naval officers from another country. She placed the note face down on the polished table in front of Admiral Thompson. He looked at her with sharp annoyance before glancing down. He read the note once, then again. The warm, friendly mood vanished from his face and was replaced by cold, serious calm that his staff recognized meant trouble. The note was brief. MCPO Ella Anderson, County Courthouse, Courtroom 4B Judge ordering medal confiscated. Admiral Thompson stood up suddenly. "Gentlemen, please forgive me," he said to the surprised visitors. A matter of great national importance has come up. We will need to reschedule our meeting. He walked out of the room, his aide right beside him. Get me her file now, he commanded, and get my car ready. Tell the base commander and Master Chief Reyes to meet me at the courthouse. Full dress uniform. In the Admiral's office, Ella Anderson's service record appeared on a large screen. His aide gasped. The screen showed an amazing record of bravery. Navy Cross, Silver Star, 3 Purple Hearts, and at the top, the official citation for the Medal of Honor awarded for actions that went beyond normal duty. Her official photo showed a young woman with tired, knowing eyes and a Master Chief's insignia on her collar. Admiral Thompson stared at the photo. He recognized her face. He had been the commander of the battle group out at sea when her unit was attacked. He had read the reports, the shocking accounts of her heroism. He himself had signed the first recommendation for her award. This wasn't just an abstract hero. This was one of his own people. Back in courtroom 4B, Judge Harrington was enjoying his power. The bailiff, caught between following orders and a powerful sense that something was terribly wrong, had gently placed a hand on Ella's arm. "Ma'am, you have to come with me," he said quietly, almost begging. "This is the last time I will say it," the judge announced loudly, pointing a finger at her. "You will give me that unauthorized decoration as evidence of your contempt for this court's lawful orders. If you do not, there will be additional charges. You are willfully blocking justice." He was so wrapped up in his own power, so blinded by the offense to his position that he had gone way too far. He was no longer just a judge enforcing rules. He was a man demanding a hero give up her honor. To take the medal was to try to erase the sacrifice it stood for. The young sailor Peterson finally spoke up. "Your Honor, stop. You don't understand who she is." "Silence," the judge roared, hitting his gavel again. "One more word from you and you'll be in a cell with her." That was the exact moment the heavy wooden doors at the back of the courtroom swung open. They didn't creak. They opened with a solid, definitive sound that grabbed everyone's attention. Standing in the doorway was Admiral Thompson. 4 silver stars gleamed on his white dress uniform collar. Beside him stood the base commander, a 2-star rear admiral. On the other side was Master Gunnery Sergeant Reyes in his marine dress blues, a striking sight of color and military precision. Behind them, a quiet line of other officers and senior enlisted personnel, including a female captain and a command master chief, filled the entrance. They didn't rush in. They walked with measured steps, their black dress shoes making a soft, rhythmic sound on the tile floor. The sound was more powerful than any shout. It was the sound of purpose. It was the sound of an institution coming to protect one of its own. The entire courtroom went completely still. The judge's mouth fell open, his words stuck in his throat. The bailiff pulled his hand away from Ella's arm as if he'd been burned. Every person in the room turned to stare at the silent, impressive group walking down the center aisle. Admiral Thompson's piercing blue eyes scanned the room with absolute focus. He didn't look at the flag, the bench, or the frightened judge. His gaze was locked only on the quiet woman in the 3rd row. He walked straight past the barrier between the gallery and the courtroom and stopped directly in front of her. The room was so quiet that the hum of the overhead lights sounded loud. Ella looked up and met the Admiral's eyes. A moment of recognition passed between them. Then Admiral Thompson did something that completely destroyed Judge Harrington's remaining authority. He brought his heels together with a sharp, clear sound. He raised his right hand in a crisp, perfect salute, so clean it seemed to cut the air. A 4-star admiral was saluting a retired enlisted woman. It was the highest form of respect, a gesture saved for one special award. He held the salute for a long, silent moment before dropping his hand with precision. "Master Chief Petty Officer Anderson," the admiral said, his calm, strong voice carrying more power than the judge's angry shouts ever could. "It is an honor to see you again." He turned his head slightly, making sure the judge could hear what he was about to say. "For the record," he began, his voice taking on a formal, official tone. "This is Master Chief Hospital Corpsman Ella Anderson, United States Navy, retired. The decoration she wears is the Medal of Honor, awarded to her for outstanding bravery and courage at the risk of her own life, far beyond what was required of her." The admiral stepped to the side so he could see both Ella and the judge. On October 17, 2012, during an ambush in the Helmand River Valley, Afghanistan, then Chief Petty Officer Anderson's platoon was trapped under heavy enemy machine gun and rocket fire. 3 Marines were badly wounded and stuck in the open. She left her safe position without any hesitation and ran directly into the danger zone. The crowd was completely focused. Lawyers, clerks, and other people in the courtroom listened, imagining the scene. She protected the first Marine with her own body while applying a tourniquet to his leg. The Admiral continued, his voice steady and clear. She was wounded by shrapnel during this. She ignored her own injuries, dragged that Marine to safety, then ran back into the fire for the second one. While helping him, she shot at the enemy with her weapon, stopping a machine gun position long enough for her team to get together. She ran back a third time for the third wounded Marine and was hit by a bullet in the shoulder. Despite being wounded twice, she helped all three critical casualties and refused to leave herself until every single one of her wounded teammates was safely on a helicopter. Her actions directly saved the lives of 4 United States Marines. He paused, letting the weight of the story settle into the room's stunned quiet. The judge's face had changed from angry red to a pale, sickly white. His gavel lay forgotten on his desk. "That trinket," the Admiral said, his voice dropping to a quiet, dangerous level as he finally looked directly at the judge, "is the highest honor our country can give to a service member. Federal law allows it to be worn and actually encourages it. In fact, federal law makes trying to wear this medal without earning it a federal crime. Your order to take it was not only deeply disrespectful, it was an order to break the law." The rebuke was total. Judge Harrington's public shame was real and visible. He became smaller behind his bench, a tiny man in an oversized chair. Ella spoke next. She slowly stood to her feet, wincing slightly from an old pain in her shoulder. She looked not at the Admiral, but at the judge. Her eyes showed no victory, only deep tiredness and sadness. "Your Honor," she said, her voice soft but firm, "I respect the rules of this courtroom. I respect the law. Standards matter. I spent 30 years of my life enforcing them, but standards need to be used with wisdom and thoughtfulness. They should not become weapons of ignorance." She paused for her words to sink in. "Don't lower your standards. Just get better at recognizing them when they're right in front of you." Her simple, graceful message was more powerful than the Admiral's anger. It wasn't a lecture. It was hard-won wisdom from someone who had paid the price to give it. As she finished, a memory flashed through her mind, brief and clear. Not the dust and violence of battle, but the quiet, respectful atmosphere of the Oval Office. She saw the President of the United States, his face full of solemn respect, as he fastened the blue ribbon around her neck. She recalled how it felt, both impossibly heavy and light as air. She remembered the official words being read aloud, filling the silent, historic room. That moment, the peak of her country's gratitude, felt like a universe away from this shabby, misguided dispute in a local courtroom. The distance between these two moments showed just how far apart their worlds really were. The results came fast and completely. Judge Harrington, looking like he'd seen a ghost, stammered several apologies. He erased the contempt charge against Ella. He dismissed the speeding ticket against the young sailor Peterson with a trembling wave of his hand. The day's proceedings were stopped right there. Admiral Thompson and his group formed a protective wall around Ella, escorting her from the courtroom and leaving Judge Harrington to sit alone with his ruined reputation. Over the next few weeks, the story, though not in major news outlets, spread through local legal and veteran circles. Judge Harrington was officially censured by the State Judicial Board. A new required training course on veterans' issues and cultural awareness was started for all people working at the county courthouse. Word was that Judge Harrington himself pushed hard for the new program, eager to make things right. About a month later, Ella was shopping at the military commissary. As she pushed her cart down the canned goods aisle, a man in regular clothes approached her cautiously. It was Harrington. Without his black robe and high bench, he seemed smaller, older, and very tired. "Master Chief Anderson," he said quietly, his voice no longer arrogant. Ella stopped her cart and looked at him. "Mr. Harrington," he swallowed hard, having trouble meeting her eyes. "I wanted to apologize again. There is no excuse for how I acted. My ignorance was huge. What I did cannot be forgiven, but I am asking you to forgive me anyway." Ella studied his face. She saw real remorse, deep and painful guilt. She thought about all the young sailors and soldiers she had guided over the years, kids who had made mistakes, some very big ones. Her job was never to tear them down, but to help them become stronger and better. "What's done is done, Mr. Harrington," she said in an even voice. "What counts is what you do going forward. I heard about the new training program at the courthouse. That's a good beginning." He finally looked at her, relief showing in his eyes. "Thank you, Master Chief, thank you." He nodded, then turned and walked away. Ella watched him go, then continued shopping. The fight was finished. The lesson had been shared and maybe, just maybe, a small seed of wisdom had been planted where there used to be only a lack